Hey guys, a long time no see. Uh, I know I haven't made a video in a while, and this is not going to be a normal video for me, but the Overwatch 2 beta opened up the other day, and I have been playing it pretty much since I got the key, and I just want to talk about it for a little bit, because I think that it is, unironically, the best version of Overwatch I've ever played. Overwatch is a true movement shooter. It's awesome. I also want to talk about this character right here, in particular, Sojourn, because I think that she really embodies a lot of what's great about Overwatch 2. So, to start off, I'm going to go over the more relevant changes. I mean, they kind of they kind of just switched all of the nighttime maps to day and all the daytime maps to night, which is kind of funny, but that's not super relevant. In terms of heroes, they added all of these passives, which I think are really, really great, and I think they influence this sort of shift over to being more of a movement shooter. Ults are ults are less important, which is kind of nice. You get them, and for the most part, they do something. But a lot of like the big ults, like Grav from Overwatch 1, are actually less relevant now because you're 5v5, and that's the first big change, that you're playing in 5v5 versus 6v6. But this tank passive is really nice. With a solo tank, they're much more important. The tank as a character is much more important than it was in Overwatch 1, and this right here clearly influences that. You also can't really farm tanks for ultimates, and this is nice because this pushes towards the overall feeling of ults being less important in Overwatch 2. DPS just move faster, and that's awesome. And then supports have a Mercy-esque heal per second, which is really, really nice. As a support player, I've been doing this. It feels best on Ana, where previously, if you were getting poked out, you'd have to nade yourself. But it feels good on Zen too, where this stacks with your shield regen. It just feels good on all the supports, obviously, but it feels especially good on those two, where basically if Zen doesn't take damage for 2 seconds, he's back to full HP, and Ana doesn't need to nade herself. Yeah, so now I'm going to go into the hero specific. So Doomfist has just been completely reworked, and this has been pretty awesome as well, because I think that he does a lot of really cool things in a movement shooter. So even though it says damage reduced, he is actually more left click reliant than he was before. In actual experience playing the character, his left clicks are much more relevant than they were before, which is super cool. He's no longer just like a random one-shot character. He is probably the most CC that is in the game, which is pretty cool, because they removed his one-shot, they removed his stun, they removed his uppercut, and he's still the most CC in the game because they took so much CC out of the game, and that's pretty sick. His seismic now offers so much more movement. Like, he's probably the most mobile tank in the game, and that's super, super cool. And he actually feels like you're playing a shooter game when you play him, which is nice. Diva, she's kind of just like the same character. Like, these are legitimately just tweaks. In terms of Orisa, they completely reworked Orisa. They removed her shield, which is honestly super cool, and now she reminds me a lot of like Heavy from TF2 with added utility. I will say she's a little bit broken right now. Her 2 javelin abilities are kind of insane. This one is just a stun, and then this one is basically like a Diva eat plus a boop effect. Like, Orisa is very, very powerful right now, but they've changed how she feels a lot, and that's super cool. She reminds me of Heavy from TF2. She's now kind of just a minigun character with added utility, and that's super neat. Reinhardt is the most classic tank, and I think it's kind of cool that they made basically, like, there's one proper shield tank, and the rest are kind of hybrids, and that's kind of nice. This is kind of they big things. Fire Strike does 2 charges now. That's like the big change. Other than that, it's all numbers, but he still feels super tanky. I believe he has 650 health now. I think that's what that math adds up to. But he still feels super tanky. He feels very similar to how he did before. Roadhog feels amazing in a movement shooter. He is near unkillable and just has the same damage output as he did before. He's still one-shotting squishies. Roadhog, I think, is very underplayed because he didn't receive any nerfs as a tank and fits in very well to the new tank role. Sig, same thing. This is just number tweaks for the most part. The secondary fire is interesting. I don't think it really changes Winston that much. I think it just makes him a little bit more skill testing. You know, now you can actually like hit skill shots with him. He is, I mean, this is mostly just number tweaks as well. The big thing overall across the tank role is that every tank has been moved a little bit more towards the off-tank role, and you don't really have those like shield tanks where you did before, and that's been super, super cool in practice. Now moving on to DPS, Bastion has received an entire rework. I'm not really going to comment on this too much because I don't actually know where he's put now. Like he still has insanely high damage output with his tank mode, but they've changed so much about the character that I don't want to comment too much about it. Next, Cassidy, they've completely removed his stun, which is playing against a creep. Honestly, it's just super, super interesting in general because for years now you've had to like play around his stun, and it's almost just muscle memory at this point. But he feels slightly worse to play because you don't have a stun, you have a weird magnetic grenade. Although I think he's still equally powerful. Echo and Hanzo just got nerfed. Junkrat, they changed how his steel trap works, which is super cool. Mei, they made it so she doesn't freeze. Reaper, they just changed. Sojourn, I'm going to come back to. Sombra feels really, really broken right now because now her hack is basically just like a Discord orb. It's kind of insane. Her EMP now also just removes 40% of the health. Like, Sombra feels very, very broken right now, and I don't expect her to hit live servers at this same in the same place. Tracer also very powerful because she doesn't really have a counter anymore. They undid this nerf to Widow, which I'm really happy about. And then the supports, they honestly did not change much. They just kind of reworked Brig a little bit to remove the stun. They buffed Bap a lot because he had been nerfed due to double shield. Lucio just got buffed. Mercy just got buffed. So that's just like kind of a brief overview of all the changes. Now to go back to the character I'm really interested in, and kind of what she symbolizes, which is Sojourn. So for those of you who have been playing the beta, Sojourn is awesome. She seems decently well balanced. I can't quite tell if she's more or less powerful than Soldier 76, who actually is not on this list. Because her like primary fire is, I believe, not only lower damage but also it's also projectile. Her alt fire potentially one-shot squishies at hit scan, which is kind of crazy, but you need to like charge it up. The disruptor shot, I still don't actually really know what this does. I've been playing a lot of Sojourn, and it feels like sometimes it's like an AoE damage thing, sometimes it does nothing. I don't really know what it's meant to do. And then her ultimate just makes it so that you can constantly railgun alt fire. Her power slide is the coolest fucking ability in the game, because it's basically like an Apex Legends Titanfall slide, but then you can also jump. So you press shift, and then at any point in that shift you can press space. No matter when you press it, you still jump the same height, which is super cool. And it jumps decently high. Like, there's not a really good comparison point in the game, but it's like a little bit more than like a Genji double jump, and it is awesome. Her movement is so fluid. It's on like a 7-second cooldown or something, so you can do it very consistently. She just kind of feels like what the game should have been doing all along, which is like really, really skill-intensive mechanics. If you can hit her railgun alt fire, it does a lot of damage consistently. If you can get the projectile aiming right on her railgun, it deals a lot of damage consistently. Her movement is amazing. It feels very good. Her ultimate is just very skill testing. It's basically the inverse of Soldier's ultimate. And she just seems super, super cool. I don't know how powerful she is yet because she does seem very skill reliant. But what I have played with her has been super, super fun. Her movement is very cool. Her aim mechanics are super interesting. It's kind of like the aim mechanics of Genji, where you need to like deflect and then be able to like aim differently depending on what you're deflecting. It's super, super cool. I've really been enjoying the games that I've had with Sojourn. And Sojourn as a hero kind of just shows the overall move that the game is taking, which is an actual movement shooter. They've removed, if you can't tell, they removed a lot of the CC from the game, crowd control, which is really, really nice. The game just feels more fluid. Playing flankers or overall fast-moving characters is super cool. There's not there's not a lot of stun to punish you super quickly. In terms of each role individually, I haven't played much tank, but DPS plays pretty similar as it did before. It's a little bit more of a deathmatchy style, but apart from that, it plays very similar. Support, you have to be significantly more self-reliant because you no longer have your off-tank to peel for you, but apart from that, it feels very similar. Like, it reminds me of playing support in, like, a dive meta, but unlike a dive meta, you don't have people diving you all the time, but you also don't have an off-tank, so it kind of breaks even. I find my stats being fairly similar to my stats during a dive meta. The supports I've been playing a lot of Bapzen and Ana, of course, and the three of those feel just good. Baptiste feels a little bit underpowered right now, but I think that's just because he's been nerfed so much. But Ana feels very, very strong. Zen feels very interesting. I think that he does well in this more deathmatchy style that we have with the 5v5. Keep in mind, this is all just quick play in Overwatch 2. That's kind of all we have right now. But what I have been playing has felt very deathmatchy. With only the one tank, the tank actually ends up being almost even less of a tank. Unless you're playing a Rein comp, for the most part, your tank is just like the person that gets the most resources. Like, they're still kind of trying to get kills and they are on some level trying to take space. But you're not controlling space as much as you were before. It's more like your tank is the person that can push space more easily rather than a person that defends space super easily. Because with one tank, it's 2 DPS can very easily take one tank. So it's much more now of like, okay, well, we need to push up the staircase, so let's pump heals into our tank and have the tank walk up the stairs. More so than it is like, we're going to put our tank on this corner where they can hold the space very effectively. There's also, on all of the new maps that they introduced, which let's see if I can find where they put all the new maps. Queen Street, New Queen Street, and Colosseo, and Midtown. Each of these have a lot of little flank routes. Oh, and Circuit Royale. All of these maps have a lot of little flank routes, which I think is kind of where the game is going. There's not a lot of King's Row and similar maps that kind of have like one main path with 1 or 2 flanks. Like, these are maps with a million little nooks and crannies that you can flank through to get to the enemy team. So I think that's somewhat where the game is going, especially with these changes that they've made. It feels a lot more like a deathmatch. It's felt really, really good, really fluid. I'm really enjoying the game. Obviously, if you didn't get the key when you could, I think your next chance is Overwatch League opening day, which I believe is May 5th. But if you have the ability to play this game, I 100% would. It feels very, very fun. If I had to, like, recommend day one heroes, I think Roadhog, Sigma, and Orisa all feel very strong, followed by, like, Doomfist and Zarya. But, yeah, Rein just feels like a little bit weak without an off-tank. D.Va, I don't know what D.Va's meant to do. She is strictly an off-tank. She has no real ability to be a main tank. Doomfist just feels very weak. I think that he needs to be buffed quite a bit. His role is very interesting, and I like playing him, but a lot of his stuff feels like it just does too little damage. Either that or people are just playing him entirely wrong, which could very well be true. Winston and Wrecking Ball also just feel a little bit weak, which is interesting. I would have expected Wrecking Ball to be like the best tank day one for Overwatch 2. But I haven't seen him much, and when I do see him, I think he's just kind of countered by the best characters in other roles, right? Like, Wrecking Ball was always really good in DPS comps because we were playing DPS comps into, like, rush comps. But nowadays you're playing Wrecking Ball into, like, Ana, Zen, Tracer, Sombra, and that just kind of fucks on ball. In terms of DPS, Sombra Tracer is probably, like, the best duo. That's kind of, Sombra's insane, Tracer's insane. Past that, Sojourn is interesting. She could be really, really good. I think so that she just needs more people playing her. But yeah, I'd recommend like Sombra Tracer if you want to play DPS right now. And then for supports, honestly, they're all kind of good. They're pretty balanced right now, and without 2 tanks to synergize with, you can kind of play whatever you want. I'm honestly seeing a lot of Reddit Lucios, and I think that's just because you don't have the tank to speed boost. You can kind of just do whatever you want. But I'd recommend you stay clear of Baptiste and Lucio. I think that they both don't really do what you want to be doing in Overwatch 2. I think Mercy's super interesting. I think Brig is really good when paired with an Ana or a Zen, and then I think Ana and Zen are both really powerful. But I think like your support core should be built around like an Ana and a Zen, and then either a Mercy or a Brigitte to support them. But yeah, that is my takes on, I think this is like day 2 of the beta. Or maybe this might be day 3. Today's the 29th, so we had 27th, 28th, 29th. Yeah, so day 3 of the beta. This is my experience with it so far. I've been having a lot of fun with Overwatch 2. I think it's a really, really good game. I think the takes that I'm seeing on Twitter and stuff of like, this isn't, like they announced this game 3 years ago and this is all we have, like that's fair, but I think anybody saying that what they have done is bad is kind of wrong. Like they've done, every decision that I've seen them make is really, really good. And keep in mind it's a beta. Like Doomfist will be buffed before the game goes live. Orisa will be nerfed before the game goes live. Abilities that we see right now could be entirely changed. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. No promises on returning to the usual content, but I've been really enjoying Overwatch 2 the last few days, and I just want to put this video out because there hasn't been much content on Overwatch 2 from people that aren't like the streamers that got early access, so I just wanted to put a video out there with my thoughts on the game. I hope you guys enjoyed, and like, subscribe, comment, do all that.